Hello and welcome back to a new ADV adventure. Today is May 10th. I'm in Innisville and there is a Canada Rides adventure course training. So today 9 and 5 group training. So I'm here with my Transalp, hoping to get some more knowledge into the adventure riding. So hopefully they're gonna let me film something and see how the course goes. So very nice day, pretty chilly in the morning. It was 8 degrees when I left. It's supposed to be around 20. I don't know if here is going to be 20, but definitely above 15. So sunny, very good day for adventures training. I took a gravel road just to warm up. 3255 Canada Rides. The boys are here. A lot of bikes. We spent like an hour explaining the riding position, explaining the bike setup. They do a bike setup for you, like brake lever, shifter lever, they set up for everybody. We have a Suzuki V-Strom 1050, Nordstrom Tenere. So pretty good information for the first hour. So now we're gonna go. They have a course set up and gonna do some slow speed practice. The instructor very good. I like his explanation. They took all the questions, so that's good. So we're getting ready for the first exercise. Very nice day, nice location. I know they're also providing lunch on this course, so that's nice. Straightforward address. Highway is close, so that's good.
Shut them off for a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the first exercise, which is going to be, we're going to divide up into two groups of 4. So 4 riders are going to be over using the pylons on the left-hand side. You're going to work your way through the pylons, and then you're going to return. Coming up, you'll see a trail along the top side of the hill, and you'll come back around. And so you're always going to be turning to the outside. This side, we're going to go down the pylons, and we're going to come back along the fence and come back in. The first exercise is going to be start to get you familiar with that seated position. So I'm going to be looking for you to be on the balls of your feet. I'm going to look for a good handlebar position. If I'm going like this to you, it just means your elbow's a little bit wider so that we're in a good braced position. And then what I'm going to be watching is that the bike is moving underneath you, that your head is starting to stay in that good position. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on in this exercise. You continue to progress and I feel that things are going a little bit smoother. I'm going to start to move the pylons a little bit closer together, which means you're going to have to go a little bit wider, a little bit sharper, and that's just going to get us set up for what's going to happen as we move into the standing position and then into the transition position between the two.
It's talked about when you guys were over there, if you remember, was talked about, being on the outside. If you remember, we talked about the outside. And so as he goes by the pylons, if you think about it, your body should be away from the pylons. You're moving to the opposite side of where that pylon is, right? What most people end up doing is leaning into it. So you'll find you have a tendency to lean towards it rather than away from it. That's a street rider thing as well, because you're used to leaning in. So if you watch where his body is, he's going to be on the opposite side. He's leaning out. See how his body's leaning away from the pylon, away from the pylon. See where his body's going? So you're going to that opposite side. Those might be a little close together, Scott, but
You think?
yeah, there may be. We'll see if he's. I think we likely want to take one out and spread a little bit, but we'll see.
Oh, what a U-turn.
So you can see as I kind of did the 360, as the bike was getting further over, I was still quite a bit out over that first point. Below. So this will start to introduce you into dragging the clutch a little bit to keep control. And if you have to, you can drag probably the front brake a little bit. So if you pull the clutch in, it slows down.
Alright, so that was the first exercise.
How's the two-finger thing going, Rick? Is
Good,
that it's
good,
working?
much better too.
Yeah. Everybody else, the two-finger. Are you trying that two-finger? It's working. Yeah. I know you were struggling. Is it coming together? Yeah. Mike. Yeah.
So that we transition into a standing position. And so for this, again, we're going to be less than first gear, so you're going to probably have to ride the clutch just a little bit in order to go slow enough. And if you're going to drag a brake, probably drag your front brake versus the rear. And so just as a reminder, right, if I'm pointing at the lower part of your legs and I'm going like this, it means you need to bring them up straight up and down. One of the most common things is people will ride standing up like this, and you're going to be tired fast. As soon as you start to feel any part of your body ache, let me know, because again, it's going to come down to a part of the position. So your legs are straight up and down from the knees down. Your feet are pointed in just a little bit so that you can squeeze on the lower part. We're going to work through this until we can actually stand comfortably, so that we have nothing, no pressure, right? So no matter whether I'm here or here, I still have no pressure. For this, we don't have to get low or anything. We're just going to be in a nice high hinge. And now your head is going to stay in a good position. The bike is going to start to transition below you. And so you're going to start to have to shift your hips just a little bit to always be on the outside, okay?
Look at that butt going up. See how it's going away? It's going away from the obstacle, the opposite side, right? Really, it's muscle memory, right? You're teaching your body the direction to go. And to the street gliders, you're unteaching your body what you've done for 30 or 40 years. So it's all right, have some fun, guys.
Alright, so I thought it's gonna be worse, but actually it's easier to me. It's actually easier to be standing than sitting. It's much more comfortable controlling the bike. Yep, feels good. Alright, so after lunch, basically we did a sitting and stand-up exercise before lunch. So we had lunch and then they talk to us about what you should carry, like the toolkit, and they told us about their tours that they're doing. So basically now it's 1:15, so we're heading to new exercise. So basically in the afternoon, I guess, hopefully for warm-up, we're doing the same thing that we did when we finished in the morning. They told us that there's gonna be another exercise of a transition, so basically from stand to sitting and back.
We're showing you about using your knees, and you're going back from your knees, not from lifting and then moving and then trying to do that smooth transition, so that it's really easy. If you're coming back and then right back down onto the tank, coming back down onto the tank. So do a couple of cones sitting, a couple standing, a couple sitting, a couple standing, and just keep mixing it up. All right? Rock and roll.
All right, so now it's transition from sitting to standing. So basically you sit down, you do 2 or 3 cones, and then you stand up, or the other way around, whatever feels better for you, I guess.
So what I'm noticing that everybody is kind of doing is kind of on the bike and you're kind of standing up and then trying to find in a position. And so the thing that we're trying to work on here is that if we're riding seated and something is causing us to stand, we don't have time to stand up and then go and sort ourselves out and find out what that position is. So the 2 things I want you to think about is, with your knees, you're driving them back, and that's the position you want to be in. So you're starting low and aggressive, like we're going to do in braking, and then when you're going to transition to sit, you don't kind of sit down and find yourself. You drive your knees forward so that your balls are basically banging into the tank, because we want to be in that good forward position to get us situated. So just think, if I'm in this position, it's knees back, and my head or my body doesn't move, like I'm not moving up and down, that if I'm making that transition, it's just quickly I'm back, and then I can adjust. Okay? Make sense? Everybody's shaking their head, but I'm not seeing, what is it? Your eyes are saying yes, but your lips are saying no? So if I want to stand up, it's simply I'm riding along, knees back, forward, and your head and everything's not. Now, what happens when you do that, and again, as I was saying, is that if we simply bring our knees back, we're almost into a good aggressive position for braking, which we're going to be doing in just a minute. But you want to be in a more aggressive, stable position than you want to go, oh shit, something's happening, let me bang, and you hit something and it's too late. You want to be able to be transitioning into typically what happens in this transition, if it's happening fast, something is in front of you and you need to stop. So it's going to be front and back brake coordinated as you're throwing your body back, preparing for impact. That's really that first position, is just knees back. I'm in a perfect standing position, and I can adjust from there by moving my hips up and down, but I'm not bending my knees back and forward. Okay? In first gear, without touching the brakes, we're gonna slowly move the bike up the hill. And then we're gonna pull our clutch in only enough to stop the bike without using any brake.
Where that throttle is going to be so important,
And then
right?
we're gonna, and then we're gonna slowly pull in the clutch a little bit and let ourselves ease back down the hill until we want to stop, where we're gonna let the clutch out a little bit in order to stop ourselves from moving. And what this is doing is to kind of teach what it feels like for the engagement and the disengagement of the clutch without using the brake. What happens, and where this becomes practical, we're riding up a hill, the bike stalls, we hit a rock and we stop. To get going on a hill, it's not hold on the brake, rev the throttle and drop the clutch, because as soon as the rear tire spins, you're not going up the hill. So you have to learn how to feel that if I'm on a hill and I need to get my feet back down, I can't be using my brakes and everything to hold myself, so I have to be able to start my bike, put it in gear, get it sitting on the clutch itself so I can take my feet off, my hands off the brake, and I can slowly start to move up the hill with traction, trying desperately not to spin. And so this exercise is going to look a little bit like this. So with some throttle on, I have to pull in the brake here. So if I had some throttle and I let the bike sit on just the clutch, so with no brake on the front or the back, I can let the clutch out a little bit. No more throttle, I'm just leaving the throttle as it is, so the bike will slow down. When I get to where I want to stop, I just ease in the clutch and I can hold the bike on it. When I want to back up, I pull the clutch in a little more. Until I let the clutch out to stop it. And so I'm not changing the RPM, I'm not changing the bike speed at all. What I'm doing is I'm just letting the throttle sit, so when I pull the clutch in, the bike should rev up a little bit. When I'm letting it out, it's going to die out a little bit. We're not trying to keep the same engine RPM and adjust the throttle. All we're trying to do is to learn how it feels on the clutch to be able to modulate our back tire, okay? The reason that, and where this comes in, and the amount of throttle that you need, is again, this goes back into off-road riding and off-road racing, is that if you ever watch the guys, or if you're riding up a big hill like in Romania or something like that, what we do on our two-strokes, the 300s, is you just whack on the full throttle, because I need 50, 55 horsepower generating in the engine, and that's really the generator. So I'm generating 50 horsepower by holding it wide open, and then I distribute as much as that power as I need, as much as I can have to climb.
But you need to have it before you go. You can't generate it when you're on the hill. It's too late, right?
Yeah, because what I was going to say is that if I'm into the hill and I go, I need more power, and you whack on the throttle, well, if you're not in the right power curve, it's just going to die and stall out and you got nothing. Or if you pull in the clutch to get it in, you've lost any momentum you've had, and now you're in a world of hurt. So that's why if you're trying to get started on a hill, you might have to rev quite a bit as you're starting to engage into the clutch. But all that is doing is generating as much horsepower as you need, and you're still going to finally distribute it through the clutch itself. And so what we're going to do is just find a spot along the hill, down along this. If you point up at the fence post, it's a little bit steeper, and you just want to kind of find that spot on the clutch to move the bike ahead a bike length or two and stop it, let it drift back, move ahead, drift back, and we're just going to do that a couple of minutes just so that you feel what that engagement is like. Because after we do the acceleration and braking, then I'm going to move these pylons around, and everybody's going to have one pylon, and you're going to go and see how slow you can go around and how tight around a pylon. And that's where you're going to really need to start working on feeling that clutch in a way that you have forward movement, which is not going to be anywhere near as hard on the bike as what this just quick demonstration will be. Okay? So jump on your bike, find a spot on the hill.
While we have everybody, we're going to just do a quick bike recovery.
Oh, yeah.
So let's do that now, just on the hill while we're here.
So
I love to put my bike on the ground. So.
Yeah. Couple of things. So falling over is a thing on the bike. In this kind of position right now, the way this bike is lying, it's kind of half lying downhill. If you came over and you're by yourself and you wanted to pick this up, this is a very hard lift, right? And so, and I'm not going to do it to this bike right now, as much as I'd love to, because it's not mine. But if it were me, if it were me and it was my bike and I was stuck by myself, if you have a bunch of bags on, you can clip your bags off quickly if you would like. But really for this bike, the easiest thing to do would be to grab the front tire, pick the bike up, and and just pivot it around until you actually get it over here, because now lifting it up is going to be a lot easier, right? So tires downhill, the bike becomes so much easier to lift up. And that's really one of the keys. Again, because they're meant to go down and you can drag them, tires all from your oil, so I'm not even going to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing with a bike is I see people getting in and, you know, trying to lift here and things like that. Although, you know, biomechanically it can get you into a good position to try to do a, it's really back into our whole deadlift, if you would, to get the most leverage on a bike. And when we picked one up this morning, as I said, you want to turn your wheel to get this pivot point out as far as possible, because the most leverage that I can get on this bike is to pick it up and pick from here. And so that becomes an easy lift for me, even though the bike is pointed downhill. But if I went back and tried to pick that bike up from here, or grabbing onto here or something like that, it's a nasty lift. And especially if I tried to get in to get my back under it, I'm a little bit too tall for exactly where I would be finding myself on that bike to pick it up. So the greatest leverage you can create on a bike, turn the handlebars, you're getting as far away from the pivot point as you can, and it becomes very easy. The other thing you can do, if you have someone with you, is if they can help lift, great. Dave never likes to help lift. If your partner stands on that back wheel, just by standing on it as I start to pick it up, should almost be able to do this with one hand.
Yeah. See the difference in the
See the difference? And so always leave your bike in gear.
Yeah.
But so
It's called the monkey lift.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. You have somebody stand on the back end, and as you said, you can literally do it typically with one hand on the front. It changes the weight so much.
Yeah. So I was able to lift that with one hand with him just standing on it without him helping me lift.
So it's gonna be fun. Let's see. All right, 1 foot. There's nothing else I can do.
A lot more throttle. Give it a fair amount of throttle before you start, and keep it there. Hold it on, and then you're using your clutch, not the throttle, right? You're using your clutch. That's it. You hold it there. It's to feel where you can hold it, right? And then you can slowly roll backwards, and then again you can use the clutch to stop you from rolling back. So you're not having to touch your brakes at all. That's it.
And that's why this is so critical, is if you're stuck on a hill and you're trying to get going, within 2 revolutions of your rear tire, you should be ready to stand up to get you climbing, and that's the transitional trick. Body weight a little bit forward, bring your head probably about over your handlebars, not quite as far as your display. You're going to roll on as you ease into the clutch, and you're just going to pick up a little bit of speed. As soon as you get to the pylon, you're going to move your body back a little bit into a more aggressive position. Only this time, we're going to start by only using the rear brake. By only using the rear brake, what I'm looking for you to be able to do is to press on the rear brake just enough to brake as fast as you can without locking the rear tire. If the rear tire locks up, you should be easing off of the brake to maintain braking, but not taking your foot off of it so that you start to accelerate or freewheel into it. So this whole exercise is about body position to brake and standing, getting into a body position to brake to accelerate standing, to getting into a body position to brake standing, and learning how to modulate that rear brake. What happens on an adventure bike when we get into grass and everything, even if we have the most aggressive tires you can imagine, is that if our rear brake and our rear tire slides, it will fill up with mud and grass. When it fills up with mud and grass, the moment it fills up with mud and grass, it becomes a ski, right? It's no longer providing any braking, it is simply a ski. going and gliding along and you've lost all braking. So if all you had was your rear brake, you've lost the ability to brake. So that's why when the rear brake locks up, we need to learn how to modulate the rear brake a little bit so that it moves, so that we're introducing new tread as quickly as possible so that we can brake and maintain braking under those situations, okay? And so it's about finding that point where you can have maximum braking without locking the bike up. And we're gonna do that a few times, talk about it a bit, get that sensation down. Every bike is gonna have a different level of braking, so leave lots of room because of the tires that are running. And then after we've done this a few times, we'll do it again, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about now how to coordinate by adding a little bit of front brake to this in order to improve our braking. So typically on an adventure bike, when we're riding off-road, we want ABS and traction control on the rear end off by how we move into a position. So when I pull up, I'm in a body position forward, I'm going to roll on a little bit of throttle. When I get here, body position back, and then I'm going to start my braking, and you'll kind of see what that looks like. And it's body input before we do control input as well. So body position forward, roll on the throttle, jump into a braking position as we're starting to modulate that rear brake. So if I'm going to accelerate, I move my body position forward. And then when I'm braking, I'm coming from accelerating, braking. Yeah, so you can see as I lock that up, how I was easing off of it to allow the bike to get going. And so if you feel that lockup, that's how you start to ease off on the brake, but I didn't let off on it. And I'll be able to tell if you let off on it, because if you let off on the brake, the suspension is going to release and you're going to start to move forward and accelerate forward. But if you modulate it, the bike will still stay down and still trying to hunt and find that traction. Okay? Yeah, roll up to the first pylon.
Right, so the exercise is accelerating and braking.
More aggressive.
Okay.
The butt over the passenger seat, not over your seat.
Over the passenger.
That's when you push your hips back.
Yeah.
That's going to push me back. On the inside, I didn't see you fall, but so this is, you just lift.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Easiest. Just jump on the rear tire for me.
Sure.
And it'll make it easier for me and no work for you. Yep. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect. See, in falling just means you're pushing. That's all.
That was it. Alright, so looks like the next exercise is gonna be trail riding.
Everybody can visualize what we're doing, where we're going. When you look at the hill, it doesn't get any worse than this. It's all good. You want to keep going? You're going to 3 or 4 laps. just so you kind of get used to riding up the hill in a good standing position. And then we're going to stop. I'm going to turn everybody around, and you're going to go back, and you're going to come down this hill. Okay, so coming down, we get our body back a little bit, well braced, going up a little bit.
One bike is down. Nice bikes here.
Won't be bad. Stand on the rear tire. Yeah, watch. If he stands on the rear tire, and you flip
All right.
this over, then all you have to do is reach underneath like grab this bar. See that sets up? Here we go. Yeah, it just sunk all the way in. All right, so you're all set.
Let's see how this goes. So this seems to be the last exercise. I'm tired. 3:30. Okay, that was not bad. And we're going down. Alright, not so bad. Alright, going up the hill again. I think we're going to do this a couple of times. And then we're gonna turn around and do it again the other way. Through here. Wow. Alright, so that was the downhill. It all looks different when I'm going back up. I'm trying.
Very mad at us if we
I'm trying.
Okay.
Pretty sharp turn there, and with that guy went down. So we have one more exercise, I guess. Something with the rocks. Let's see what he says. I don't think I have much battery left.
Against this, you want to be able to just release the clutch a little bit, add a little bit of power so we can roll over this rock and we can keep moving. The worst thing you can do is ride into a hole like this, stop if the water's deep, fall over, and now you have a problem.
And the other problem you have is in water is momentum, or sorry, it's getting momentum once you lose it, right?
Yeah.
So because you got basically no traction on the rocks, like it's very little traction because they're rough.
Well, and if you don't have any power generated, if you're stalling out and you give it a handful to try to get going, you can't modulate power on the rear wheel with your throttle as well as you can, or as well as you will develop with being able to do it with your clutch. So I'm just going to ride through this once, demonstrate how you're going to ride through it. I'm going to ride through it 2 or 3 times, and that will go over and wrap up for the day. So you're in a good position.
You're nice and slow, and that was going to be one of my suggestions is, you know, do it maybe a little faster the first time so you're confident you'll get through it, but then try practicing your speed. Try slowing it down and still controlling it, right? Because that'll show you how much control you've learned today with your modulation.
100% top connected to the bike, and then you're riding through this, modulating your clutch. In an environment, imagine what this is going to be when you're crossing water, is you're not going to see any of the rocks in front of you. It's going to be a murky, muddy, slimy looking piece of trail. All right, good luck.
Of what Canada Rides does. So overall, actually I'm gonna just say now I can see that the guys are not here right now. So overall, it was a good learning, good experience, nice location. I guess if you're a beginner, the pylons make sense, although the turning in the circle, it was a bit tough. But other than that, if you did, he teaches a couple of nice lessons. He tells you stuff that you might not know. So yeah, I would say I learned stuff. So that's pretty good. And yeah, I'll give I don't know, let's say 9 out of 10, I'm guessing. For the experience, they're very open to answer any questions you have. I like that they went through the guys and set up the bikes for them, so that's pretty nice. I would give thumbs up, and that's pretty much it.